hope, your favorite show, The Elephant in the Room. Today we have a great topic for you. We have Tara and Linda here, and they are tarot readers and psychics. And I know a lot of you out there have a lot of questions about how this works. Is it real? Is it not? What's going on? So that's why we brought them in the studio today to clear up some of your misconceptions. So thank you so much for coming on the show, guys.
Thank you.
I know that we've had this show in the works for a while, and maybe Tara, you can start off by telling us why you feel it might be that way.
Well, I felt, you know, I do astrology as well, so the planets were moving backwards while we were trying to get this organized. So I don't know if people have noticed over the last, since January up until about 2 weeks ago, the planet Mars was moving backwards in Mercury. So now everything's moving forwards a bit more, we can proceed.
Ah, okay, so the movement of the planets actually affects what we're doing. That's an interesting theory.
Absolutely, yeah. And the old maxim was as above, so below. So whatever's happening in the heavens, it does affect us. I mean, we have free will, but it, you know, like in quantum physics now, they understand that we're all interconnected.
Now, is this similar to like seasonal mood disorder? Like if the weather is bad outside, you know, you get kind of depressed, you don't feel like doing anything?
Generally, but there's also for each person, it's different. And people are going through different astrological transits. So each person is going through a different phase at their own time.
Interesting. So Tara, since you started off, why don't you tell us kind of what your story is? How did you get started in this?
Well, I think I was always psychic.
Okay.
I was always seeing visions. I was always seeing stuff that wasn't there. I always knew there was spirits around since I was, you know, since I can remember. And I mean, I started out as an artist, but I was always interested in reading. So I'm kind of in some ways self-taught. A lot of it is very intuitive. I work with spirit guides, and then I studied. I started studying formally. So for me, it was I had to study astrology, symbolism, mythology, psychology, study the tarot, study astrology, study numerology, and you're always learning.
Right.
And then really just through experience, I've been doing this professionally now for 20 years.
Okay, wow.
You know, just feeling so confident that it's just there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes you do know things that are just there.
But it's funny, you know, being a psychic, I'm going, oh, I forget. I knew that this was going to happen, right?
Right.
But it's kind of like a funny, just, I know it's going to happen, but, you know.
Now, you mentioned you studied formally.
Yeah.
What was that? Was that a university or what?
No, I didn't study formally. Linda did in England, but I studied through, I had a number of tarot teachers.
Right.
And my last one told me I was going to be doing this professionally, and so he kind of threw me out into the kind of doing corporate readings, which I really like to do and I've been specializing in. I've studied astrology, and I've done workshops, so I've had different teachers that I've worked with, shamanic, energy, healing, and all that stuff too.
All right, and Linda, what is your story?
My story. Well, like Tara, even as a child, I was really into everything spiritual. I actually wanted to be a nun.
Oh! Well, that is very spiritual.
I used to take myself off to Sunday school and things like that. And then when I was about 11 years old, I just realised that I had questions and the answers didn't really fit with me. So I was kind of in a bit of a spiritual void. And then I got really sick when I was about 20.
Okay.
And after being really sick, I went back to work and there was an astrologer there.
Okay.
And it was just like she opened a huge window for me. And so I studied for like 6 or 7 years and, you know, did a very formal thing. And I hung on it all my intuitive stuff from being a child because I knew I'd lived before. You know, I used to tell, not so much the future with cards, but I used to explore with playing cards, and it wasn't really tarot, it was my own kind of thing that I was doing. And I think I was a tarot reader in a previous life, and that's how it came through. So really it was through getting very, very sick and having to withdraw from society and then coming back. So it's very like a shamanic experience, right? It's very common, right?
Right.
And then I met my husband, and he encouraged me to, you know, read for people, having been a student for like 8 or 9 years, and you know, what I was doing was valuable, so, you know, I took payment for it. But my husband kind of really pushed me out into the public with it, to be honest, you know.
No, you're from England. What made you decide to come to Canada?
Oh my goodness. Well, the funny thing is, I I just had a feeling that I should be traveling, and I kind of was called by America in a sense.
Okay.
And I found out there was an astrological conference in LA.
Okay.
So I went from London to LA, and my partner, who I didn't know at the time, went to LA from Canada, and we met there. And we've been together ever since.
Aww, that's a love
So it's
story.
kind of, yeah. And he's been quite instrumental in kind of, you know, making me public. And Tara, of course, got me into the corporate, doing the corporate reading. So thank you for that.
It's good that you both have very supportive partners. I know that's the first step in a lot of things. Now, I know a question that the general public has is, how do we know this is real? How do we know that you guys aren't working off vague assumptions and clues and all that?
Well, I believe that everybody's intuitive, and I think, you know, everybody has their own blind spots, so you need some objective advice.
Right.
You know, it's a kind of trust thing, you know, in some ways you have to feel out. I mean, I think people are naive, but you will know when people are telling the truth.
Right.
Right? And yeah, I know a lot of people get taken because I get mixed up for this really phony thing online called Tarot Medium, and I get all the emails, and it's really not even a person, it's just a computer program.
Right.
So I'm going, no, you know, don't believe it. There's no free readings, and there's no, I'm going to take it away from you. It's the lucky, you're going to win the fortune, you're going to, you know, here's the lottery numbers. That to me is like really hokey.
Well, yes, there's a lot of stuff out there where tarot readers, psychics, they work off really vague assumptions. I've seen seances where they're like, somebody in this area had somebody that committed suicide. And I mean, that's generally how it worked.
Right.
So how are you guys different from that?
Yeah.
Well, how are we different?
Yeah, that's the general.
Well, you know, it's like
misconception.
I guess there's good doctors and bad doctors or lawyers, and I'm not paying, you know, passing any judgment, but, you know, I know that I do what I do with integrity and honesty, right? I'm not here, it's bad karma, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, there's an old Wiccan saying that, you know, harm none, and whatever you put out comes back to you 9 times. So, you know, I do get people saying, you know, can you make my boyfriend come back? Can you remove curses? We were just talking about this before, and I'm going, I never would put out negative energy for anyone, because it's just going to come back at me. And I tell people, if anybody's harmed you, what you want to do is send them love.
Yeah, and it does work.
And it does work, you know. You don't want to get involved in all that. It's kind of black magic, you know.
And
don't do stuff like that.
Well, there's something to be said in any religion, in any spiritual belief, in any belief in the world, that if you're horrible to people, it is going to come back to you. And I mean, that's just common sense.
Exactly.
And Linda, you do the same thing, or?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I like the tarot, and I concentrate mainly on that, is that when you lay a spread, the person with you can actually see the pictures on the cards. So when you look at, oh, you know, this is where you've been, and you look at the recent past, people know that you're not just cold reading, because they can see the picture. You can help facilitate change by looking at the symbolism. So you can kind of read, but you can also dialogue with somebody, and it really isn't about, for me anyway, like telling the future and getting it right. It's about facilitating change, empowering people so they can make their own decisions. Like, I don't tell people what to do. I wouldn't, you know, be that arrogant. It's like, you know, I empower, hopefully.
Well, that is
people
definitely
come
a different
back,
approach
so I
to say, like, you do have the power, you do have the courage to go about this.
People are amazing, you know. Sometimes I don't tell people anything blindingly new, but it's like a confirmation. So it's hope and it's reassuring. They see where they've been, they see where they are. And in a tarot reading, I can see, like, if they don't do anything, if they don't put a lot of energy in, I can see where the river's flowing. So you could say fortune telling, I see the outcome. But really what I do is, do you like the outcome of where your energy is flowing and all the decisions? And if not, we kind of dialogue or work with the cards so that people are empowered to make different choices and understand why things happen to them. And then you've learnt the lesson, and then you can avoid it.
So you guys are almost like counselors. Or,
Absolutely. I mean, I'm really a psychotherapist who uses tarot cards, and actually that's how I got into it seriously. There was a woman who was a psychologist in Toronto who used tarot in her therapy, and I went to work with her. I went, okay, that's it. I want it to be legitimate. I've always worked against the, you know, the fortune teller sign, the gypsy, the $10 reading, because I do want to empower you. I believe that, you know, when every client, I'm going, you know, you have all the answers. I'm just going to mirror back for you, and I'm interpreting what you know.
Now, do you guys believe that you have the power, or it's the cards that have the power?
Well, the cards are very powerful, but the cards are just a tool.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, it's not so much about, like Linda said, I totally agree. Yes, you can see into the future, but it's more about the process of having people own and be responsible and realize how this situation has evolved. I like to use the astrology too because it's great for timing of events.
Sure.
So I use a lot of both these days. But it really is about owning your own process. So you want to bring people awareness.
Right.
So what I say is I'm trying to make you more enlightened, you know, in a way. So you can be aware. And you have free will choice. So I don't want to take karmic responsibility for telling you, you know, Jasmine, in 6 months, this is going to happen to you. I don't want that responsibility.
Okay.
So that makes it really clear for me.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys kind of see, you kind of make it more obvious to people what they're doing.
And
So I'm
explore.
guessing,
Exploring.
if you guys can see the future, are there lottery winnings? That's the common question. If you can see the future, why haven't you all won the lottery?
There you go. Well, this is it. That really isn't what I do.
Right.
And I never put myself out there as that's what I do. I don't. I read for people. I work alongside people, and I facilitate change.
Okay.
No, I don't hand out lottery numbers. I don't lift curses. And I don't take responsibility for other people's lives. But I support them in any way.
So the
they
lottery
need it.
numbers don't come to you in a dream?
No, if they did, we'd probably be sunning ourselves.
I mean, honestly, I do. It's interesting. For some people, and I don't know if, and it could be a karmic thing. With some people, like right away, I'm into past lives. I'll tell them all kinds of things.
Okay.
So, and it depends to me on how open that person is. So, you know, sometimes I sit down to people and
they're
you
so
know,
closed off.
They're so closed off, and they don't like what you're telling them. This is the other thing. Now, because I do like to read for people in person because I like to connect with people's energies. But I do also read for people on the phone who I've never met. And so in that way, it's much more intuitive. I'm connecting with their energy just by sort of putting my psychic energy out to them, and then it's about trust. So being a reader, what makes it different is you have to really trust what you're getting, and you have to really surrender. So basically, I have to kind of get out of the way. Do you know what I mean? I have to get my ego out of the way.
Yeah, for sure.
And let the higher energies just come through.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no lottery numbers.
Well,
I know all of you are excited out there and they don't have the lottery numbers. Sorry.
No, but I do use people's numerology.
Okay.
So, so in that sense, I base it on your birth date, not on your name, and I will tell people about, you know, what specific number they are, what year they're going through, and you know, if people want to use those numbers because they resonate with them, do that.
Now, what is the science behind numerology? Is there
science behind
numerology, or is it all intuition?
No, there is a science, and there are different schools of numerology, but you know, basically, it's 1 to 9. I use the tarot, the symbolism of the tarot with the numerology. So, for example, if you were number 3, for example, if your birthday reduced to the number 3, I would say, well, then you're the symbol of the Empress in the tarot. So you are the queen, you are the goddess. You're very feminine, very fruitful, you like to support people, you like to midwife them, you know, you like to nurture them. Okay. Like that.
Okay. So what I'm getting from you guys is there's kind of 2 different streams. There's the kind of shrink stream where you really just look from an outsider's view, and sometimes people just need an outsider's view to see, like, you think you're doing this, but you're actually not. You're actually hurting yourself. And then there's kind of the other more controversial stream of being intuitive and being psychic. Do you guys have any anonymous, we talked about this, anonymous success stories that you could possibly share?
Yeah, and often it happens when I'm at these corporate events, and you know, we're reading very quickly. Sometimes it's 5, 7 minutes a person. So in one evening, we're usually there 2, 3, 4 hours. I read for a lot of people, so you're just in the spin of things, right? And then years later, I'll meet them again, and they'll come back and they'll say, you know, you told me I was pregnant. And I was, and or you told me this 5 years ago. Or people will send me emails, you know, I met you so-and-so, I found you on the internet, you know, I got to tell you that this happened, you were totally right about all this. So, yeah, that's
And is
great.
it multiple things? Is it possible it could be a coincidence?
Could it be a coincidence? No, it's usually pretty specific. Oh, your marriage is going to break up at this point.
Wow.
You're not going to be with this person anymore, or you're moving to Alaska, you know, whatever it is.
Wow.
You know,
so you use a lot of specific details as well.
Oh, yeah.
Now, do either of you, we had someone else on the show, so do either of you make predictions for the future in terms of dates, times?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, is there something that you predicted that came true recently? Or is there a date that you could give us that you know is going to happen?
Well, I did predict the tsunami in Japan last year.
Okay.
Because in the newspaper, in the Toronto Sun, they ask me every year to do my annual predictions, and those are usually posted.
Right. Now, I did see this on your website, that you did predict it. However, the scientific belief of that is that tsunami is earthquakes that can be predicted by looking at the shifting of the plates.
Yeah, but I'm not a...
You're not a scientist. You don't know. You didn't understand that.
You know, it's literally like when I have to do those annual things, I'm literally sitting there looking month to month into the future, show me what's going to happen.
Okay.
And that's a process, right? You know, I predicted World Cup wins and stuff like that. You know, I mean, people would say, oh, you have a 50% chance.
Yeah.
I know that. You know.
So there is coincidence, and then there's also having trust that you do know what you're doing, and you do have those predictions.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. So we were talking about success stories.
Okay.
We got off the road. What about you, Linda?
Kind of the same. You know, I'll bump into somebody years later and they'll say, oh, you know, you said this and this, it'll come true. But quite often what's happened to me lately is I'll be, you know, reading for a young woman and I'll be saying something along the lines of, oh, if you don't want kids, be careful, because I actually feel that energy around. And you lean forward and say, you know, keep your voice down, be quiet. I'm 2 months pregnant. Nobody knows, because I'll be at a court. Oh, yeah, nobody hears. You know, very, very discreet. That happens a lot. Yeah, I mean, really, I kind of tend to keep things private, but you know, but without mentioning names. I did read for a woman years ago, and I always remember over the phone, you know, she was looking at a relationship, and I said, well, you know, if all things go according to plan and you don't do anything, you know, drastic, like not go out for 6 months, I do see, you know, probably a young guy coming into your life, and you know, it's all to do with work, and there are children involved, and he may have a child. She said, well, you know, you've got to be wrong, because I work only with women, and I would never ever date kids, and that was it. And she was kind of a little bit huffy. You know, a year later she got back to me and she said, I just had to call you, you know, I feel really bad. I work with all women, but we went to a conference, it was all work. I bumped into a guy, we're living together, and he's got a kid, and and I just wanted you to know, because I know that I really was bad. I said, oh, that's okay. But I remembered her because she was very like, what do you know, that could never happen. Like, so, you know, there's kind of things where people do get back to me.
And I mean, I'm sure that's great, like, validation to know, like,
and they come back for other readings. I never want anybody to be dependent on me, so I'll say, well, you know, come back in a year's time if you want. And people do. I mean, there's one woman that I've read for many years, and I'm sure you're the same. People don't come back if you're just, you know, cold reading. But there are people out there that you know, aren't like us, for sure.
Who do
but so you do have to, you know,
you have to be aware.
You know,
you have to be careful.
Do your research and be careful. And
and it sounds like
I've had some bad readings myself.
It does sound like some of your predictions are very accurate and very like spot on. Like moving to Alaska, it's kind of hard to predict. I hope that I'm not moving to Alaska. Please don't tell me if I am.
I'm not going to tell you that.
But some of it can be coincidence, and I wonder, has anyone ever come back to you like angrily or said like, well, what you told me is just vague, or that could happen to anybody?
You know what? There are people who are really obstinate, and they want to know what they want to know, and they're very difficult to deal with. And you know, you get some of these every once in a while,
right?
And you know, I get people, and they've gone to someone else, and they come to me to compare, but they want to know that what this other person told them was right, even though it's not happening.
Okay.
So that kind of thing kind of drives me crazy. Okay. Because they're so set in their ways. You know, you want what you want, but I'm saying, but it's totally different. So they get mad at me, but they just don't want to accept it.
All right.
So you have to be kind of detached, right?
How do you know that perhaps the other person is scamming and you're right, or you're the scam and they're right? Like,
that's the thing. I'm going, well, if they told you this and it's not happening, maybe it's you know, maybe they're not so good. You're blaming me, but I'm going, you just want this to happen. You know, it's a bit dicey, right?
I do think that the general public is, part of it is karma, part of it is whether they choose to believe you or not. Definitely part of it is showing them like as an objective view. So there's all sorts of things going on here, and I don't think all of them are controversial or that hard to believe at all. I think you guys definitely act as shrinks with maybe a little bit of power. So.
I know.
But we're trained in counselling too. I mean, we haven't just kind of set up a shingle. Do you know what I mean? Like, I have a background in counselling. you do
too, yeah.
You know, we're not.
But I think that, you know, because people are so, I meet a lot of desperate people.
Right.
And people are in pain and they're desperate and they need help. You know, and people who even, you know, they think it's a little dodgy, you know, I don't really believe in this.
Sometimes
but
just hearing it.
they need some other's voice, somebody objective to listen to. So I try to be totally supportive to people.
All right.
You know? Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to stop right there. We are going to come back in 1 second and we are going to get some readings from these lovely ladies. But right now, fluff your pillows, walk your dog, drink water, whatever you need to do. But promise, promise, promise me, you will come back to check out the second part of this episode. Catch you in a moment. All right, welcome back to The Elephant in the Room. I'm Jasmine Bowen, and we are joined by Tara and Linda. In the first segment, we talked a little bit about how they got here and some of the misconceptions of being a psychic, a tarot reader. But now we're actually going to do some readings here. So, ladies, why don't you explain what we're going to do?
Okay, so I have my beautiful old, very well-worn tarot deck here.
They are well used, as you can see. Tarot actually works.
Yes. This has been used for 20 years, this deck actually. So the way I use the tarot, now some people don't let their clients, or they're called their querents, I love that word, ask the questions or touch the cards, but I'm going to give the cards to you. Now they're big oversized cards. Now you have to shuffle them using your left hand. So if you're not a lefty,
that's okay. I'm kind of ambidextrous.
Ambidextrous, okay, good. That's good for your brain. Okay. So what you need to do is to just shuffle the cards. Okay, you can't do it like regular playing cards.
I can't like.
No, you can't. No,
do we have a card shuffler in the studio?
They would break. So I'm just going to ask you to do it like this. Okay. And while you're shuffling, to just think about whatever it is you want to know about right now.
Now I have to completely use my left hand? No.
Yes.
Can do that?
No, the other way around. The left hand has to do the shuffling.
Oh, I can hold them
so
in
the left hand is the action hand, and what this does is helps you tap into your own intuitive side.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the way.
They are very pretty, very well-worn cards, as you can see. Very multicolored. And you want me to ask a question? Mm-hmm. All right. I am wondering, we talked a little bit before the show, I am wondering whether there will be more theater in my future or more film.
Okay, good one. Okay, that's a good one. Okay. All right. So, Jasmine, could you also divide them into 3 piles?
Into 3 piles?
Yeah,
okay.
with your left hand. Okay. And then put them back together into one, however you like. Okay, so this just brings...
more complicated than...
I'm
already confused.
Yeah, I know. Oh, no. This is just to add more synchronicity so your unconscious is...
There we go.
Okay. All right, so Jasmine, do you want to tell me your birthday? You don't tell me the year.
It's September 22nd, so I'm right on the cusp of Virgo.
Okay. So do you consider yourself a Virgo or a Libra then?
Generally a Virgo, but what's interesting is actually the Leo predictions sound more like me a lot of the time.
Okay, well, if you're into theater and film, that's a Leo. So, you know, without knowing your astrology chart, I would say you
possibly
probably
my parents lied about my birthday.
No, but I think actually that's another topic. You know, sun sign astrology is just so limited.
Yeah.
And when you do serious astrology, you have to use the sun, the moon. I wish they'd at least do sun and moon astrology. So you probably have a Leo ascendant. You don't look like a Leo ascendant, but there's probably a strong 5th house or Leo. You know, also I would veer on the Libra side because Librans are ruled by the planet Venus, so they're into theater, you know, beauty, film, all of that stuff. It's kind of a designation. Okay. So I turn over 11 cards. Now there are different spreads that people use. I tend to use 11 because I like to work with master numbers rather than the standard 10. So this is what's called a kind of Celtic cross with an extra card. And so like I said, I believe that you actually have all the answers. So this is a mirror of yourself.
Okay, so this is more on the therapist help me side.
I mean, in a way I'm saying that this is a mirror of what your inner psyche is. So I'm interpreting it that way. Okay. Now you have one major card in this reading, which is the card of the star.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes, you know, Linda was saying it is like, you know, you can see the cards, but, you know, when people use different decks, I mean, they do have words on them. To me, it's like, it's not just about reading the cards, okay? It is also intuitive. So the cards are just a touchstone.
Okay.
They are like little movie screens, so really, literally, every card
it's kind of about
is telling me something.
Interpreting different symbols.
And in fact, sometimes I read backwards.
Okay.
Sometimes I start at the end and go backwards.
Is there any specific way to do it, or you can read however you feel?
Well, yeah, there is a system.
Okay.
Okay, there is a system for example, traditionally, this card is called the past influence. You know, you want to have the luxury of doing what you love to do, right? What comes from your heart, what makes your heart full. And that's very like Leo. That's an actress, right? As well. Okay, so even though you've been going through some tough times and some stress here, there is a new positive energy coming in here, okay? A new beginnings on the emotional level, especially, okay? And change, major change. So I would say, you know, the star is always a blessing. She represents literally wishing on a star.
Which card
this is this one here.
Can I pick her up and hold her up? I don't want to.
Yeah. So the star is always
a star at the bottom.
Yeah. The star is always the symbol of hope. It's sort of like wishing on a star.
Okay.
So she relates to the planet Venus. So for example, in the last month, Venus, Jupiter, the moon were very visible. Everybody was talking about it. So Venus is the wishing star.
Okay.
And ultimately what you want to do is what your highest calling is. You want to feel like you're actually channeling the divine energy. And really, if you're going to be a great actress, that's what you have to do. You have to kind of surrender, right? Okay. Kind of like what we do here. It's all about surrender, okay? So the cards are saying actually you should be looking for work in the States, okay? Much more international. You need to broaden your perspective.
Okay. Well, what in the cards shows you that? Like, is there a specific card or the layout?
There are specific cards. What I pick up now, Linda might interpret this quite differently. There's the card of Sagittarius here, the fire of fire. So again, that passion, that desire. I mean, this card here is traditionally Mercury in Sagittarius. It's, you know, the Eight of Wands. To me, that always relates to America.
Okay.
I mean, America has that Sagittarian ascendant traditionally. It's traveling, it's expanding your horizons, it's the rainbow bridge, it's that sense of, yes, your wishes, the star, will be answered. Maybe not right away, and maybe not without some obstacles that you have to push through. You know, you're going to have to work for it. But, you know, it feels pretty positive, like a lot of breakthroughs. There's a lot of tens here, like a lot of ends of struggle. You know, just to renew your hope, renew your energy, renew your passion. You've come through a lot of gateways already, so it is a process, right? But I feel like this is it's very positive to me.
Okay.
Okay.
So the answer to the question: more theater, or more film?
I would say more theater, more film.
Of the two, there has to be an answer.
It feels like film to me.
Feels like film.
Feels like film.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Check back with us in 5 years.
Okay.
All right, and Linda, do you have anything to add to that before we do a second reading?
I'll do a second reading maybe, because, you know, so that you get more out of it.
Okay, so the answer is more film, as we sit here on film at REMIC TV. And I think that's definitely interesting.
More film and more television. Because this card is like you're spreading yourself out. So it's using, and actually the star is about the internet. It's about technology. It's not about being on the stage.
It's kind of self-evident from being on REMIC.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's more like that's the way to go.
Yeah.
All right.
And the star for me is, it comes up a lot with people when they find their true vocation. And I usually read like down here, like this is your spread, not mine, right? But kind of the unconscious with the star is like, you know. It's like, we're not going to tell you anything you don't already know, because like, you know where your spiritual home is, like where you're really, and with the star you can pull it off. You know, I mean, you can be a bit of a legend here in your own lunchtime. You know, like the centre of attention. You kind of, you know where you need to go. So you will be kind of creating your own future, like working with your destiny, but saying yes to it, which isn't always what people do, right? So you kind of know already, really, what you want. You know.
So it's about hope. It's about following, you know,
following the dream.
Yeah,
I think that's a very interesting reading, and I see both sides of it. I do see the fact that what you already know about me and what you can already see, and you know, pushing me perhaps in that direction, and then perhaps a little bit of mystical, magical coming from you guys.
I would say also that you do tend to block yourself. You tend to give up, and really following the star, because there's one major card in this, one major arcana. This is a new beginning. You have to do what you love to do. Yeah. That has to be your truth.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny because when I kind of what I intuitively got with you was I used a different deck, but I got the world card, you know, and I thought, oh, there's something with you where you're completing. It's not so much ending.
But you've done a reading for me already.
No, I just got it in my kind of. It's kind of you're completing. coming full circle, you're tying up loose ends, and there's something about what you're going to do, and this is the star, I think, where you're going to be able to dance to your own tune. Like the picture on the world card, the deck I've got, is like, you know, the person dancing with the kind of the serpent swallowing its own tail going around. So it shows something really about being able to dance to your own tune, and even if you're in the middle of chaos or confusion or whatever, you're absolutely peaceful because you know who you are and what you want, and so the rest of the world can go crazy, but you know what you want and you're focused, and I see you moving towards it. But it's really, this is the card, isn't it?
I mean, you know, pulling out a star card for an actress is kind of
But the cards, you see, I always trust my cards. This is the thing. I mean, it's not just literal, because, you know, there are many ways, and you can keep working at it. Like, to me, I do see you traveling, and I do see you getting an opportunity. Okay?
Yeah, the world card is the world as well. What else is out there for you? You know, you're right.
And to really just go for it. You know, don't give up. You tend to give up. You tend to get, oh man, it's not working, so I'm giving up, right? But I'm saying, no, that was just a little test to see how much you really want it.
Yeah.
I don't think I tend to give up at all, actually. I don't feel that at all. I'm known as the workaholic persistent. So.
The Three of Wands here is an interesting card.
I don't want to like disturb the order. Okay, so this actually says virtue.
Yeah.
So you call it Three of Wands.
Yeah, it is the Three of Wands, isn't it? Yeah. Because it's got you know, it says like you can't really see it, but like it's got that wands there and the number 3. But in this deck, it's got an 8. And really, I always see that as somebody who they want to explore what else is out there, and they want to be more of a leader than a follower. You know, so it's kind of that card comes up when people start like, new jobs or new careers, but it's in a challenge position. So
So no, I'm not saying you give up. I'm just saying that the 10s here, like you've reached the end of certain barriers, like I said before, and maybe you feel that way more emotionally. You don't actually give up, right? I think it's there. You get kind of disappointed, you get kind of stuck, but you keep going.
I don't know. I'm a very
you're a strong-willed
persistent workaholic person who's generally happy with my surroundings.
So you don't kind of second guess what you're doing, though?
No, and I think sometimes that gets me in trouble. I'm always, let's just do it. I'm very much the just do it person.
Oh, that's very much that card.
This is fire.
So really, that
King of Wands. It is a knight. I don't know if you guys can see. It's a knight jumping through fire.
So that's really a lot of movement there.
That's a lot of firepower.
Interesting. All right. Well, that was a great reading. Can we reshuffle and do our second reading?
Okay.
We're going to do a more vague prediction for most of you who aren't in my personal life.
Okay.
Following me around, I hope. We are going to talk about the economy. So what are you doing now?
Okay, I have this very special crystal. This is a double terminated Herkimer diamond.
It's very pretty.
Thank you. And so because I want to cleanse the energy.
Okay, so it's kind of like that. Reboot.
Yeah, exactly.
Reboot.
I like that. Okay.
A lot of my viewers are very technical. So I
might be using that.
All right, so the same thing. You want to think about that question, doing the economy, the world economy. So we're going to ask you to be the channel then for the whole world here. Jasmine, so
it's a lot of pressure.
Left hand, a lot of pressure. Don't worry about it, just relax. Okay, so we're going to focus on the question is the world economy.
Okay, so
divide them into 3 piles again, please. Okay. Roll the card going to come up here. Okay, and then put them back together into one, however you like.
I got this time. All right, so the question is, what's going to happen to the economy? Is there going to be a crash? Is there going to be...
Okay.
Now, this is something you can actually follow without following me.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we have very different cards coming up.
Yeah. Okay, and you know, sometimes people ask that, if I did another reading with the same question a few minutes later, would it be the same?
Yeah.
And sometimes the same cards come up, and people do get over years always the same cards.
Interesting.
Because it's like, they need to pay attention, okay? So yeah, it's very
Now, one card that catches my eye is this card that actually says failure.
Yes, it does.
And that was one of the first cards that came up. So maybe you can explain what's happening here.
Okay, well, in terms of the world, interesting. Okay, we have two major cards in this reading, and one of them is called the Emperor.
The Emperor.
So the Emperor is the big boss, the king.
Okay, whoever you consider
Whoever's
that to be.
in power.
Whoever you consider
okay,
that to
now
be.
whoever that is, that could be the leader of any country.
Okay.
Okay, and then we also have this one here, which is the High Priestess.
Now, are you getting a specific idea of what country, what leader, anything like that?
Yeah, because this is a big general, reading here.
True.
Well, let's see. Sometimes, it evolves organically, so I'll see what comes. You know what I mean? It could be like, is this the President of the United States? Is this Stephen Harper? Is this the UN? Like, who's the big authority here, right?
Right.
Okay. Okay, and then we got the High Priestess.
Okay.
Now, this is very interesting because the High Priestess is like the moon.
Okay.
So she's the guardian of the unconscious. So it really is about what they call the collective unconscious. So she's the dreams. She's the intuition, she's the feeling, she's like the people themselves, right? And, in some ways, in terms of the world economy, in terms of astrology, Occupy Wall Street, all the revolutions that have been happening in Egypt and are still going on in Syria, the people want freedom, and that's being created by two planets, Uranus and Pluto, which are having their first square in June.
Pluto's still a planet?
Pluto is still a planet, according to astrologers. Sorry.
Tara here is supporting Pluto, so for all of you Pluto supporters, don't feel bad, Pluto, you're still a planet.
Pluto is very important astrologically because it represents the soul, or the collective unconscious, the shadows. So everything we deny and blame on everybody else, that's part of Pluto, and control and power and secrets and all that stuff, all that good stuff.
Maybe it would be better if Pluto was gone, perhaps.
No. Pluto's the lord of the underworld. You can't mess with Pluto, okay? Can't mess with Pluto. Okay, so where was I here?
You were High Priestess.
Okay, the High Priestess so right away, to me, those two represent what's really going on in the world this year. There's going to be a very important, rare transit of Venus crossing the Sun on June the 5th and the 6th, and she represents the feminine. And to me, this is the old authority, the old system, which is Pluto and Capricorn, and the new kind of intuitive, what the people want, working from feelings, right? And what we need, what we want, more nurturing, much more feminine.
Do you have an idea of who the old system versus the new system would be? Is that
the old system is the system that exists.
Okay, the system now, whatever it is for you.
What's there. So the old plutocracy, there's that word Pluto, the people that are trying to control the world, they're holding on because the world is definitely changing.
Right.
It's definitely breaking down. And the old system has the power, they have the technology, but the people are rising up, So I would say, yes, the failure of the economy, I would say the fact that there's these two, the twos are always, which is the number of the High Priestess, this sense of duality, there is going to be a fight here, there is an opposition, but the cards are saying, there is positive energy here and kind of emotional satisfaction. It's about, and the card of peace is here, by kind of narrowing down what we want. It's Taurus energy, it's practical, it's like what really matters, okay? So, in a sense, the old monetary system, I believe the euro is going to break down.
Okay, there's a specific federation.
They're already bartering, so the people system, the people are going to take it into their own hands and go, we don't care if that money doesn't work, we'll just trade, It's the old ancient system.
So we'll go back to
We'll go back to the old ways.
Okay, I will trade you one sheep for your goat.
Absolutely.
Oh, great. Okay, we'll talk about that after.
Yeah, so when people say, why do I have to pay for psychic readings? Well, in the old days, you would have just given me a chicken, right?
Oh, okay.
In exchange, right?
I don't think we have.
We'll made the fridge on the way out.
Okay.
But the cards are saying, there is a sense of a new wealth coming in here. Definitely, that's what the Emperor represents, the new.
Sure.
Uranus and Aries, that's Aries energy. So a new kind of power that's based on a softer, feeling-based economy, that there will be a kind of balance.
Okay.
And it's just starting, so we're just getting, it's the ace of
yes, there's already been a lot of crashes, but you think it's going to get a lot worse?
I think it is going to get worse.
Okay.
Anyway. What do you think, Linda?
I don't really deal with this kind of reading, to be honest.
Okay,
but
so you're more one-on-one
kind of
personal.
I don't tend to go there. I have
think
done, but I don't need
it's a different kind of energy, or it's a harder energy that requires more skill, or what is it?
It just isn't what I do.
It isn't what you do.
It's like if a plumber comes, you don't say, oh, while you're here, can you fix the fuse box?
That's true.
I mean, I have studied it, especially astrology. You know, I've done a lot of this kind of stuff. But these days, I just work one-on-one, and this is kind of like Tara's reading. She uses a different deck, and you know what I mean, and a different spread, a different system. So I don't want to. I actually do agree with you, but I don't want to kind of step in and interpret because you know, I mean, but I agree with you, especially you know, astrologically speaking, for sure.
I mean, those transits by those big planets, for example, Uranus and Pluto is what's created the 60s. So they're a big, huge cycle. So for example, everybody's having their midlife crisis now is 40, 41, 42. They have to now act on that cultural seeds that were planted that never really got going, but now they're really going to be manifested. So that to me is like that new energy of the Emperor.
All right. Well, thank you so much, guys, for those predictions. Now, before we close off, how can our viewers out there get in contact with you?
Okay.
Just your website.
Okay. So you can find me at www.taratarot.com. That's TARATAROT.com.
Okay. Fairly easy. I'm sure you can also just Google your name.
You can Google my name, Tara Greene, with an E on the end.
All right. And you can be contacted through
Yes,
all right.
We work together.
Wow, we will be watching out for the Euro crashing. Thank you so much, guys. Now I leave it up to you viewers. Is it real? Is it prediction? Is it nothing at all? I leave it up to you, to what you feel, what you believe in, and we'll see what comes true in the future. Thank you so much for being on the show. You've been watching The Elephant in the Room. I'm Jasmine Bowen on REMIC TV, and I will catch you next time with another great episode.